Hello everyone, welcome back to Friday with Dannphan. It's another fantastic Friday. I hope you guys are doing well. I see a couple regulars already in the chat. What's up, Brian? I see you presents Gabe, Michael, George. All good people. All good people. Hope everybody's been having a good week. This week has been not as productive as I would have hoped. Ah, yes, and of course David. But I'll go over some stuff here and there. And, yeah, we'll just talk about what's been going on in general. You know what it is? Part of it is that where I work in the house, it's one of these open concept houses, right? So there's no door you can close, there's no privacy. All the sound perfectly escapes through every corner of the downstairs house. Just no matter where you are, you can hear what's going on the other side, you know? Just because of how it's all organized, all the sound is just everywhere all at once. It's perfect if you're a church, I suppose, but it's not so perfect when you'd like to just sit down and work and get some privacy. That's one of the things that I would splurge on if I had the means to do so. I would splurge on having an office. Just an office or an art studio or wherever you want to call it, just to sit and to work and to have silence. That is my dream going forward. Still with the bottle, don't like the cup. Well, I'm only really drinking out of a cup when we have a water purifier, or if I have tea. But yeah, water purifier has been broken for half a year now. So that's just how life is, I guess. I'm not gonna fix it. I mean, I'm not an expert in that, but for now we have bottled water, and this will allow me to survive. That's the important thing. Hey Mark, thanks for the 10. Dannphan, why you give me this cold? It's Friday, finally. Yeah, it's been really cold out there recently. By the way, if you see me squinting every now and then, it's not because I'm suspicious. It's because, when you wake up one day and something bad happens immediately and you're like, okay, well, I guess the day is just ruined. I had one of those days. I woke up and upon literally getting out of the bed, just like a little gust, a little breeze, and something, I don't know exactly what, but something lodged itself into my eye. And, it has not come out all day. It's just kind of passively in there. Don't like it, as you can imagine. So that's been just a constant irritation. It's just the worst when you have something in your eye that just will not come out. And I'm willing to bet that it probably won't come out on its own until, like, I wake up the next day. It's the worst. It's such a simple thing, but it really does just really annoy you. And yes, I know you're supposed to cry to get it out of your eye and do like the staring and the blinking and everything. It just has not worked. I've done all I can. And now I just have to live with it, accept it as part of my life. But yeah, cold weather though, huh? You look a little stoned, to be honest. Yeah, well, I was thinking in terms of like, me being suspicious, but, sure, let's go with that. It's, yeah, it just makes it, like, uncomfortable in general to exist. Yeah, I have an alien probe in my eye, that's what it is. Surely. Alright, so what has been happening recently? Recently. Well, I know Diamond is out. Isn't that, like, is that recent? Did I talk about that last time? I might have already talked about it last time. I lose track of certain things. It's hard to remember what, like, we actually already discussed from the last week, especially because of how weird this week has been. There's a lot of distractions going on right now. But yeah, Diamond Distribution is out. There's a lot of other distributors taking its place, but obviously it doesn't look good for the comic industry in general. It is what it is. I do think that there's a lot of issues, but with the comic industry that will have to be fixed going forward. And I think the manga industry is gonna be running into issues as well pretty soon. I mean, it's already kind of running into issues, as we already see. I know Chibi did this story for one of his videos, talking about this anime channel that is going forward censoring things. Or, well, they completely, like, axed the adult section of their channel, and then they're reviewing content on the, like, teen and younger section to see if it's appropriate content, but, you know, who knows what that means. And apparently they were saying some buzzwords that would indicate what they're talking about is social justice, or political correctness, I guess, is a little bit more on the mark. So people are worried that stuff's gonna get censored there. But I don't really know. I don't really know. It might be just some weird rebranding thing they're going for. It could be, I mean, it could be political correctness, it could be overseas influence, for sure. Here's something. Crunchyroll got a data breach. Login info for many users got leaked online. That sucks. Ugh. Is it, like, for anyone who's ordered from Crunchyroll, or is it from anyone who has a Crunchyroll subscription specifically? Like, are those organized separately, or are they all the same? I guess they're probably all the same information. I would assume so anyways. I think Diamond being out will be great for independent artists. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to, for independent comic people to get their work out there in the first place. And to get noticed, yeah, I think it's actually more difficult now. There was a period in time where it was easier than ever for independent people to go online, get noticed, and find success. Now I think it's starting to curve. It's starting to curve downwards. We're finished the peak of social media. Now we're curving downwards, and now it's all about generating content and following algorithms and all this confusing stuff that nobody is really supposed to understand. It's supposed to be some sort of mystery or code written within the social medias themselves. And it's unfortunate because it's made discovering new things harder than ever. There's so many things so much versatility that used to exist with search functions that are just gone now, because all of the search functions on pretty much all social media, all search engines, except for Yandex. I think Yandex is the only one that still works. But all other search functions have been replaced with algorithm-based searching. So you can't really find information that you're looking for. And that makes it also harder to find independent artists, of course. Because, you know, if they're not getting the clicks, if they're not immediately successful, the algorithm will assume they'll never be successful and then never recommend them to anyone. Which is not helpful. And you know, in general, especially when I'm looking for something specific, I really hate algorithm search functions. Like, for example, just today, I was trying to look on YouTube for really old school lo-fi videos, like really, really old, archaic, like some of the first YouTube lo-fi videos ever made. I really wanted to find those videos specifically, and I didn't have any particular channel. I never subscribed to any particular lo-fi channel, but I remember like the images that I would see for these very old school lo-fi mixes, and I wanted to find them, and YouTube just will not let you filter your search. It is constantly trying to recommend to you new content, and because there's so many AI created lo-fi mixes being just pumped onto YouTube like every minute of every day, it'll be recommending you those new videos, and it will not let you search. They used to have the advanced search on YouTube that made it much easier to find things. Not anymore, they took it off. No more advanced search. You can filter a search, but you can't filter oldest to newest or anything like that. It has to always be the new content. They only let you filter it to show you the newest content that's out there. It's very annoying. I don't like it. I think it's the same thing with Google. I think Google won't let you filter your search to see old content anymore because they're just always trying to recommend you something new. It's annoying. It's actually genuinely infuriating because I really want to find these old archaic things that I enjoyed, and now I can't find them because they just decided that I didn't need to see the old stuff. All you need is new algorithm based shit. It's irritating. It's about the internet being full of people who want to be instantly famous with their own podcast, music video, and imminent engagement and marriage to a popular sports personality or pop star. Well, I don't know. Social media used to be fun. At one point it was fun where we could just like share with each other and talk about life. And now it feels like most of it is politically charged. And algorithm and AI based, and the changes that happened, it happened so fast. And I just don't have the real drive to keep up with it. I'm not really sure what I need to be doing. Oh well. Besides being a total hack, I'm not really sure what I need to be doing. What is the symbol on your jacket? So this is actually Adam's jacket, but it's Brotherhood of Steel. Fallout. It's nice. Yeah, they changed it past day, week, year, yeah. They won't let you, like, filter by year or anything. They just, yeah. If you're looking for more specific things, you'll have to use the filter setting. No, that's what I'm saying. They changed the filter settings so that it won't let you... It doesn't work anymore, basically. It's useless. I can actually show you. Let me see. Lo-fi mix. Yeah, okay, let me share screen. Show you how infuriating this is. So if I wanted to find a specific lo-fi mix from like 2010 or something, I don't have the ability to put in 2010. Ooh, there we go. I can only search upload date of last hour, today, this week, this month, or this year. It's all recent stuff. And this year also covers, like, just everything that happened this year. I mean, duration is an interesting option to put up here, but I also don't really care. Rating doesn't really mean anything as far as I can tell on YouTube. It doesn't really mean anything anymore. In theory, it means the most likes, but I've tested it and it does not recommend you the videos with the most likes. It's just, as far as I can tell, random. Maybe part of rating has to also do with the comments? I'm not really sure. But I tested it and it's not the most likes. Might be the same thing with view count. All of this stuff is just like very, like, let me see. Okay, so I filtered it to view count, and what the hell? This comes up first. It only has 26,000. This comes up afterwards, and it's like 112 million, but I don't even think that's the most. I'm very and this has 1,000? Why is that coming up? This is supposed to be the most view count? No, it's not. It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. It's not the most view count. It's a fucking lie. It's algorithm based. It's just recommending me things that it thinks I want to see, but I don't. I don't want to see what the algorithm wants for me. I want to be able to search a specific thing and find it. Ugh. Anyway. It's like one of those reasons. I'm gonna keep on complaining about it. People need to know that I hate this. It's worth the world understanding how much I hate this. But it's a recent change, and they've just been very persistent about this change. And I understand why. I understand. It's very manipulative. It's a manipulative way to go about social media. Especially when you want to push certain kinds of content onto your users. It's very easy when you're working off of an algorithm. But it's worse. It's like objectively worse. You're taking the free will away from the user. You're taking their ability to decide what they want to watch, essentially, by making it so that they can only get recommended content and they can't actively search for content. It's just not allowed anymore. You know, what are you gonna do? Huh. I'm surprised how quickly AI has infested platforms. Yeah, it did happen very quickly. Can you use colons? I don't know. I don't know if that actually works. Do you know what the dead internet theory is? Not really. I mean, I could make a guess based on what the words that make up the dead internet theory, but You can only do that in the browser, not the app. Oh, for the filter? Interesting. And it doesn't even work, really. Yeah, you think that's bad? Try finding game fans, even if it's one letter off. Yeah. YouTube shouldn't be pushing anything. What you want to watch should be your choice. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Especially when you're doing research videos, and I'm vaguely interested in doing some like deep dive videos. I think those are fun, right? But you can't find the sources anymore. It's like you can't find actual sources for the information that you need. You need like a Jamie, basically. And I'm sure Jamie, who is using Yandex or some search engine that actually still works as God intended search engines to work. I basically can't use any American search engine to find images anymore for references. I have to use Yandex because it's the only one that actually shows me like pages and pages of images. Google, obviously, you know, they show you algorithm-based stuff based on what you've searched in the past. And they share the information from your YouTube account also. But it'll only show you one page of images, and then you won't show you anymore. You have to type in something else, something more specific. So it's basically, it's kind of like an AI generator, but instead of generating the art itself, it's just generating the search results. Dead internet theory is no longer a theory. Yeah, I guess so, huh? YouTube even makes finding funny sounds like Raiden's yell from Mortal Kombat nearly impossible. DuckDuckGo based on Bing. It's good. I used DuckDuckGo for a short while, but I started having the same problems with it, where it just wouldn't show me like what I was actually searching for. Also used Brave Search. Brave Search somehow managed to be worse than Google. It used to work, now it's worse. Now it's so much worse than Google. I don't know what they did. It's weird too, because they were copying Google for a long time. Then whatever they changed about it, it's so much worse now. Thank you for the 20, Matthew. Since you're into the whimsical side of Spy X Family and the dark world of Dark Souls, how do you balance those contrasting influences in your own art? Do you find ways to blend them? Interesting question. I mean, as I'm working on the Reaper series in general, but in particular Reaper Book 2, I'm trying to find like kind of ways to blend these two together. Have some like lighthearted moments, and then have some obviously more darker moments, horrific stuff, you know. For a long time, I really struggled with drawing anything that was actually scary. So it's interesting, like, drawing monsters now and having people say that I have successfully made it terrifying, because for the longest time that was not the case. Everything just kind of looked really cute and cartoony. Actually, even with the first Reaper book, the zombies, or the undead, right? One of the critiques I got for the first Reaper book is that the undead did not look scary in the first book. They looked too goofy. They looked too cartoony. And, you know, fair. I mean, I guess they do look more cartoony than not, but they're not, you know, super hyper realistic or anything. And there could be ways that I can make them scarier in future books, for sure. I'll look into trying to make certain stuff darker and certain stuff lighter, because I think the contrast is important for a dark fantasy. In general, I think good contrast in stories feels good. Okay, let me try to explain that a little bit better. I understand that sometimes things can be tonally deaf in certain series. Like, sometimes there's a really hard tone shift and it just doesn't come off right. It just seems strange that 1 second you have a horrific scene and then the next second it's all like comedy, haha, pokey fun. I think part of this has to do with like pacing and transition as to why these two things can't really come together. Part of it might have to do with like world building and understanding the overall tone of the series in general. But I feel like having both of these things exist in one series is not exactly impossible. It's just like a matter of balancing these two, and if you can balance these two properly, I think they can work off of each other really well. Where like something becomes even darker because you had something happy to balance it out. You have like these moments of calm and relaxing, and because you have those moments, when things get intense, they feel all that more intense. But it all depends, of course. It's all about execution at the end of the day. Like I always tell people, you can write just about anything and have it turn out good so long as you approach it good. Peaks and valleys, yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Attack on Titan has creepy looking titans, very original. Yeah, they do have creepy looking titans, don't they? I've gotta finish Attack on Titan at some point. I'm curious to why people freaked out over the ending. That's mostly why I want to finish it. It's just because I need to see how supposedly bad this ending is. I don't actually think it's bad. I think people are probably just overreacting, but I don't know. I'll have to read it myself, I guess. Yeah. But yeah. And speaking of like nice happy things, right? The Way Long Back on Burning Star Comics. For those of you who don't know, I'll have this section of the stream serve as a reminder that The Way Long Back is coming back to Burning Star Comics on Valentine's Day. We're releasing issues 4 and 5. And yeah, you can continue the series. So far, it's looking like we're going to have 8 issues in total for this. It's a nice slice of life romance drama involving the Russian mob and 2 people who love each other. Aw, shucks. But yeah, I'm always like bitching about how so many of these, I struggle to even call them romances, that I react to on the channel. So many of them suck so bad. They're just so terrible. Especially from Marvel and DC and, good God, Webtoon. It gets really awful. But I don't think romance is a bad genre. In fact, I have actually enjoyed a lot of romance stories in my life, and The Way Long Back is one of them. I've been enjoying this series. That's why I wanted to put it on the website and give it the attention it deserves and tell people that it exists. And if you are interested in getting into a romance series, I'd recommend it. Like I said, issue 4 and 5 coming out February 14th, Valentine's Day. Should be nice. Should be nice. I like the ending. It was unexpected, but it worked. Interesting. Yeah. I heard a bunch of different hot takes generally on it, but you know how it is. It sounds like the Doofus movie. There's a scene where the villainess is literally snatching a Colosseum's worth of civilian souls, but they die cartoonishly. Interesting. Do you know how Reaper will end? Yes. Yes. So I mentioned it before. But every book of Reaper is kind of like a mini arc, which is trailing on a much bigger story arc. But they all like are a bunch of mini arcs that connect to each other as they're adventuring towards a particular place. That's the idea of it anyways. And some might argue that that's maybe an awkward way to go about doing a series, is to try to do book by book mini arcs, but I like the idea and I'd like to try doing it and see if it works out. Because when I buy like a manga from a manga series I really like, especially One Piece. Oh my god, One Piece manga. You can buy a One Piece manga in the middle of an arc and have nothing of any importance happen in that manga. Nothing. One of the things I like about this idea of having each book in the series be a mini arc is that something important is always happening. You get like a full story just in this one book within a much bigger story. And as I'm working on book 2, Adam of course has been reading it and kind of helping me edit it here and there. Still working on edits, but we're getting close to being done. I'm just having issues in like these tiny sections. But as Adam has been reading book 2, he's saying, wow, this is put together in a way that someone could understand what's going on in the series, even if they just picked up book 2. Like, even if they didn't read book 1. In fact, you could skip book 1 and just pick it up on book 2, understand what's going on, get like a full story within just that one book, and be satisfied. And that is interesting. I think that's something that you do not get from a lot of manga series. It's something you don't get from a lot of American comic series. And I think that's part of what's gonna help make this series that much more unique and enjoyable, and make it so that it's easier for people to hop on is another thing. Like, it is like a long story, but knowing that you can hop on like anywhere as I'm creating it, I think will open it up to much more readers in the future. That'll be very helpful, because I do need more readers to keep this series going, by far. I'm too used to romance books having Fabio on the cover. Don't have that experience myself, but isn't One Piece just a bunch of mini arcs? Sort of. So there can be a lot of volumes for one arc. Like how big this first book of Reapers, it's multiple of these for one arc. And because of that, you have the chance of picking up a new One Piece volume and having almost nothing happen in it. Like, it could just be people running around for an entire volume. And it's like, well, better luck next time, you know? But yeah. So, the idea of Reapers is changing that. It's changing the game a little bit and making it so that you could pick up the new book and have this assurance that you're going to get a full story, even if the series itself is going to be like this much bigger story. You get a full story contained within a much longer story. That's how I see it anyways. I think it's a neat idea. But, you know. Yeah, Alita is kind of the same thing, where it's like... Although, granted, Alita's mangas are much thicker. I'm sorry, I have the Alita mangas, but they're like hidden behind other things. So this is volume 1 and 2 of Alita Battle Angel, the original. Or, well, the reprint of the original. And within 1 and 2 is the first story arc of Alita. But it's not really, if this makes sense. So the first story arc ends in the middle of 2. Like, in the middle of it. Because it's just, like, organized in such a way that it wants you to be left on a cliffhanger and pick up the next one. So, you know, it's not as neatly tied up in a bow, but for the most part, that's the first story arc of Alita over there. Which I actually thought was the best, but then again, I haven't read any of the sequel Alita series. I've heard some people recommend me the next one that came afterwards. There's a lot about Alita that is really, really good. Especially the fight scenes. There's so much inspiration. As like a comic artist, you can take from the fight scenes in Alita, like specifically the actual manga series. There's so much like movement that you get out of those panels and how they're composed and everything. It's really nice. But the story for Alita is a little bit of a mess. It is. It goes all over the place. It's really jumping around and not quite sure what they want to do. And then at the end of the day, they ended up ending it very suddenly. And so I think it's good that there is like a sequel or a reboot series out there for Alita to try to polish up the starting point that the original series was. I just haven't read them yet. I just have to actually sit down and see where Alita went. But yeah, it's really decent. The art is just fantastic, and the characters are genuinely very compelling. So I'm glad it wasn't an abandoned work completely. Oh yeah, the Alita movie was also very good. It's one of Adam's favorite movies of all time. It's very, very good. And once again, the first movie, of course, is telling the first story arc of Alita back there, which I felt like was the best one. It was a good introduction, very good introduction to the Alita story. I prefer her being a bounty hunter as opposed to being a musician. That story arc went nowhere. Fuck. But, you know, it's just one of those things where the writer just doesn't really know where to take the character. So I'm hoping that for the sequel series, they had a much better grip on what they wanted to do. Thanks for the 10, Matthew. Do Americans have more of a fixation on satisfying endings than Japan? Maybe they just like the journey. I don't know. I do think a bad ending can potentially ruin an entire series. Because I don't want to waste my time reading a series if I know that it's going to have a bad ending. Like, 100% assuredly, it's going to have the worst ending possible. Nothing's going to be satisfying. And then I don't want to waste my time on it, especially if it's long, because you have this this sunk cost from spending all this time and getting invested. And if you don't feel like it was worth it in the end, then it just feels like you've wasted all that time. But I don't know if that's an American thing exactly. I feel like people in Japan also feel like they've been snubbed if they've invested a lot of time and money into a series and it doesn't have a good ending. But also, people who collect manga specifically, like people who are reading One Piece in Japan, they're reading it on the manga apps, or they're reading it from Shonen Jump magazine, you know? They're reading it chapter by chapter. So, and then they're not even just reading that specifically. It's not isolated. It's in a collection of all kinds of different chapters of manga that they're all just reading at the same time. So it never really feels like you're getting snubbed when you're getting a collection of manga and you're just reading everything chapter by chapter. But if you're buying the next volume, maybe it feels a little bit more like you're getting screwed over. But most people who collect the volumes of the manga, they're doing it to collect all of the volumes of series that they like. Most people, I think, are actually reading manga online and are probably reading on the manga apps as well. Or sailing the high seas, either way. At one point we tried to do like the manga magazine in America as well. Like I think they used to have a Shonen Jump America here too, where they would just like copy paste but in English. Not so much anymore. It didn't work out as well as it worked out in Japan. So, you know, it's just one of those things where they have the industry set up in a certain way that just flows really well, but we don't really have the time to set it up here in that same way. Not sure. Last Order Mars Chronicle. Last Order picks up after the original last chapter, regarding it as what if or dream chapter. Very world-buildy. Mars Chronicle is a big-ass flashback. Well, I assumed that much. I assumed that it would be a big-ass flashback, because it's about her fighting on Mars and whatnot. And about her, like, past life, etc. But we got, like, a flashback of her... We got one flashback of her fighting in the original Alita Battle Angels series. And I remember it was fucking weird. I don't... The only purpose of the flashback was to just be like, oh, Alita actually was a bad person when she was fucking in the army or whatever. And it's just like, oh, why though? Why'd you write it like that? Some guy confesses his love to her while he's like bleeding out or something on the well, not really on the battlefield, they're like flying away, but she just like calls him an idiot and stabs him in the head, and it's like, what the fuck was that? You bitch. God damn. I remember that scene because I remember even just reading it and being like, what is the purpose of this? Why did the writer sit down and be like, I need to write this into the story? Yeah. Some people like the bitterness of bad endings. I don't know. I guess you could argue this is the case of Blam, right? Or Blame, depending on whatever. I guess you could argue that's the case for that because, well, not that Blam has a bad ending, but the manga doesn't even try to answer any of the questions, and it kind of leaves it open for the reader to decide what the answers are, which can be very frustrating for some people, but can be amusing for others. So maybe it's not fair to just say it's a bad ending. I'm not sure. Last Order makes a small callback to Alita's musical fixation. She attempts to play a random organ in a lab, but it's an organ that generates biological material. Shit's weird and I love it. I mean, that's interesting that there's a callback. Because that mini arc where she just becomes a musician, that really didn't lead nowhere. It's like, guys, go back to bounty hunting. What are we doing? Alita was at its best when she was bounty hunting. Because there's a lot of things you can do with a bounty hunter. You know? It's just one of those things. But yeah, I wasn't into anime and manga at that time. I remember some Shonen Jump type magazine being a thing in America during the 2000s. Yeah, we have the or at least a magazine somewhere here. But it's like buried under a pile of other comics. So I'd rather not really dig through and find it. But yeah, we have one of those magazines that Adam just kept for a very long time. And I'm sure if it was not completely destroyed by overuse, then it would probably be worth something. But yeah, it's a shame that it didn't pick up steam over here. Or at least that the company was not able to hold out to keep trying, because I'm sure eventually it would have caught on, especially with weeb culture as it is now, where it's just this sudden boom of people all of a sudden interested in manga and anime, and it becoming a little bit more mainstream. I'm sure that they would have picked up a little bit more steam. Then again, maybe it wouldn't have. Maybe people would have just jumped straight to using the apps and didn't care about the magazines. That is also a possibility. Magazines in general, they're not doing as well as they used to do. Who knows? I enjoy the apps. The apps are good. They get the job done of keeping me updated on a series anyways. Alita Past get retcon in Last Order, where she's a less edgy child soldier, but she does something way worse than bomb a civilian ship. Interesting. I would be up for her past getting retconned based on what I saw in the original series. So, I don't know. I'll see what they do. But yeah. Sometimes it feels like we're all living in a sci-fi manga now. Maybe just a little bit. Maybe a little bit. I wish more anime manga stuff would be easily available in physical stores, at least in my area. Yeah, it is a little bit frustrating. I mean, there's a lot more stores that sell manga now, I guess. But in general, buying physical books is not what it used to be. For sure. Let me tell you something. This is kind of a tangent, but one of the frustrating things is buying reprints of books these days. 'Cause it's so difficult for me to find a reprint of like a good classic story, especially fantasy stories that I want to read, I've heard are really good. I go online, I find a nice cover, and I'm like, yee, I'm gonna read this. And it's so difficult to find one of these nice printed that don't have some sort of, what do they even call it? They call it an introduction by some other random fucking person. Some random fucking person. You open up the book, you think that you're going to start reading the book. No, you're not going to start reading the book, because they section off like 10 or 20 pages for some random guy to tell you about the book before you start reading it. Why? Why do I need you to sell me on the book? I already bought it. I bought the book. I don't need some motherfucker to tell me about the book before it. All the time. All the time. These fucking reprints. I don't know why. Who started this trend? I need to go back in time, find who started this trend, and kill them so that it can't happen. I need to save the timeline. Oh, man. It happened for... I got 1984. I know. Edgy, right? I just wanted to read it for myself to see if it's as good as some people say, right? And then, I kid you not, the introduction for the actually, I didn't buy it. It was a gift from my mom, but I requested it. So, close enough. The introduction for 1984 is some random. He's not a writer, this guy. He's just like some random fucking English professor. And he's telling you about how 1984 is actually anti-capitalist and not anti-communist. Did I ask you, motherfucker? I don't care what your hot take is on 1984. Get out of the fucking book. I don't want an introduction by these random fucking people. Well, how much self-importance do you need to have to be like, oh, I need to spend like 10 pages before the book to tell people how to feel about the book? Fuck you. And then I bought The Last Unicorn. Because I want to read The Last Unicorn. I want to read the original Last Unicorn. I liked the movie growing up. I want to read the original story. Very simple. There's another introduction at the beginning of it. I don't want some random person to introduce me to the book. And granted, it was not as obnoxious as the communist introduction. It's not as obnoxious as that. It's just some guy being like, I really love The Last Unicorn. Let me tell you about how much I love The Last Unicorn. And that's the introduction to The Last Unicorn. It's like, okay, I'm glad you really like it, but I'm trying to read the book. You're not supposed to be in front of the book. You're like standing in front of me while I'm trying to like see what's on the screen. Move! Get out of my way! I don't need you to be here to tell me that you like the book. I'm trying to read the book. Why are you here? Put that crap at the end? Yeah, don't put that crap in the book at all. Just don't put it in the book. If you want to make a review about a book, make a separate review and leave it out of the actual book. Keep them separate. Keep your shitty hot takes or your praise or whatever you have. Just keep it away from my book. Put it online. Put it in a magazine. It's stupid. It's stupid. I don't need it there. Yeah. Yeah, just skip it. Oh, yeah. I will be skipping it, of course. I read like 2 pages and I'm like, why am I reading this? This is not the beginning of the book. And, skip over it. But it's just wasting. It's just wasting pages in the book. It's so many pages for an introduction. Why? Well, I just want to read. The 1984 one I just straight up ripped out of the book. I was so mad reading that. This dude's shitty hot take. My god. There's nothing that could make me not want to read a book more than somebody just being like, this is a pro-communist story, actually. Get out of here. Get out. Crazy. Insane. That is a trend that I hate. Is the trend of let's have some random guy do an introduction before letting the person read the book. But I guess maybe people don't even realize that the introductions are in there. It's like the funny thing about people buying the books just to have them, but then never opening up the book to read it, never reading it at all. Or, you know, people who have already read the story but don't own it, and so they just buy the book to own it, even though they've already read it and they don't really plan to reread it, or whatever. But yeah, those introductions are completely useless. They're completely useless. I don't think I know a single person who has ever said, I'm really glad I bought the version with the introduction in it. Because I don't think it adds at all to the experience. But, yeah. Oh geez, author, relative, or close friend, yeah, but some random seems a bit much. Yeah, maybe. Maybe I could see it if it was a relative or something and they were like, oh, this is my brother's book, I love him and I miss him so much. But even that, 1 page. You get 1 page for like a relative or a loved one to talk about how much they miss the writer. That's it. You get 1 page. I don't want to read 10 pages of that. I want to read the book. I want to read the actual book that I bought. Call me crazy. But I would like to read the actual book. That's all I'm saying. They really want you to know that the random guy likes it. Yeah. They spend a lot of pages. I can't. It's like, I don't hate him. I don't hate the guy for saying that he loves The Last Unicorn. I'd like to see why he loves The Last Unicorn, but I can only do that if I'm allowed to read the book. If I can just skip past all of this and read the actual book. That's all I'm saying. Tolkien wrote his own introductions. Acceptable. This is acceptable. I have read, okay, to be fair, I have read introductions written by the actual author and had them been bad. But at least it's from the original author. At least it's not some rando. I can accept it. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I can accept it. But yeah. Did I tell you about, we went to BaseCon and I got like all the books in this one guy's series. There was like 2 books that were directly connected with each other. One of them, it's a little bit confusing the way he had it laid out, but one of them was like a short story, and then one of them was book 1 using the characters from the short story. So they were like separate, but sort of together type thing. Let me just wipe my nose. You'll thank me. And then, he had an introduction for the official book 1, and the introduction just took all the wind out of my sails. Like, I already read the short story, and I was like, okay, that was fine. It didn't blow my balls off, but it was fine. It was good enough for me to keep reading and see where this series goes. So I open up book 1, he has an introduction. I'm like, oh, cool. Because he's the author, I'll read the introduction. I'll see what he has to say about this book before I read it. And he's like, kind of bitter. The introduction is like genuinely kind of bitter about him making the book. It completely unsold me onto reading it. It made me not want to read it because there's just this weird bitterness with, I didn't want to write this, but I guess I have to. And it's like, what? Okay, so this is just gonna not be a good book? Why would you tell me this before I opened the book? You know? Before I get to read the story and judge it for myself, why do you tell me I didn't want to write this story? That's not the way you introduce someone to your book. Like when you're at like a convention or at a fair and you're trying to sell people on your book, you're trying to convince people, oh, you want to buy this book. You don't look at them in the eyes and say, I didn't want to write this. Buy it. You don't do that. You just don't, you know? So, not even kidding, I opened the book, I read the introduction, I closed it. I didn't get any further than the introduction. Because he just made me not want to read it. He made me not want to read the book after reading the introduction. That's bad. That's a bad thing. Writers, even if you didn't want to write a book, don't say that. Don't let me know that. Keep that secret. Not good. Not good. I have not read The Last Unicorn, nor have I seen the movie. I do know that there's a scene in the movie with tree boobs. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. It's a goofy haha scene, I'll let you know. But yes, this exists. I thought it was funny. But then again, I was a child when I watched the movie, so I don't know how much that holds up as an adult. I take it Reaper Book 2 will not have an introduction from a random person telling me about the book. No, it will not. Yeah, this is a dumb book, but I had to eat, so here it is. Yeah, not a fan. Not at all a fan. Okay, well, the hour is up, so I guess we should be wrapping up the Friday with Dannphan stream. We might do a game fans later tonight. I'll see how it goes. I hear yelling from downstairs, so hopefully I won't hear gunshots following the yelling. Hopefully everything is okay. But yeah, so one more reminder, The Way Long Back, if you're interested in checking out a romance with some mob boss drama, definitely check out The Way Long Back. Issues 4 and 5 are coming on Valentine's Day, along with perhaps some videos from yours truly. I'll do some videos for you, and I'll talk to you about... Are there, like, good comics to... Well, good. Are there cringe comics that I should be reading for Valentine's Day? Like, can we do a Valentine's Day special cringe reading? Is there some special cringe? If there is, guys, just tweet it at me. Just tweet it at me on Twitter, or X, sorry. Or let me know in the chat, in the comment section. I think I might have dislodged it from my eye. I think I might have finally gotten it out of my eye. It's a miracle. It's a Friday with Dannphan miracle. I think I finally got what was bugging me all day out of my eye. I don't want to completely say that this is the case. I might start crying again later. But for now, yeah, for now I think my eye feels much better. Anything DCYA. Guaranteed cringe, always coming from DCYA. The eye has been saved. Yay! Well, if there's anything Valentine's Day themed that you think would be a funny cringe read, you just let me know. Otherwise, I'm probably gonna read more Avengers Academy and nothing but Nightwing, and of course, yes, the DCYA. We have a couple DCYAs on the reading list. We got The Strange Case of Harleen and Harley, and then there's this Blue Beetle DCYA that my friend told me about. With great horror, he told me about this. He's like, I read cringe. I read more cringe than you even read, Dannphan, and this one was too much for me. I had to take multiple breaks and cry. So, that's gonna be a doozy. Whatever happened in that Blue Beetle DCYA, that's gonna be crazy. But yeah, there's also Nubia 2 Real. That's not out yet, but that will come out later this year. that's gonna fuck. That's just gonna pure fuck. That's what that's gonna do. I don't know what that means. You know what that means, though. It's okay. Yeah, the thing in your eye is like the random guy in the intro of books. Absolutely. Just the annoying thing that won't go away. Alright. Catch you guys next time. Good night, everybody. I'll see you on the next Friday stream, and hopefully for some February videos coming up just for you.